The Nevada desert shimmered under a brutal sun, the air trembling above the sand as if the whole earth were breathing heat. On the far end of the range stood a row of young Marines, rifles slung across their shoulders, frustration tightening their jaws. The day was supposed to be routine, an advanced sniper qualification exercise, but nothing about this session was going right. Targets at 1,200 meters stood untouched. Not a single round had found its mark in 2 hours. Captain Ross Turner, the instructor, paced behind the firing line with his hands on his hips. "We're Marines, not stormtroopers," he barked. 1,200 meters isn't impossible. You're letting the wind own you." A few of the younger snipers exchanged uneasy glances. Turner's temper was famous. Nobody wanted to make eye contact. At the far edge of the range, an older man leaned against a dusty pickup truck, quietly watching. His name was Daniel Hayes, early 40s, gray beginning to salt his beard, eyes the shade of steel left out in rain. He wasn't in uniform anymore. He wore jeans, a faded Marine Corps t-shirt, and a baseball cap pulled low. Daniel wasn't supposed to be there as a participant. He was on the base as a civilian contractor, brought in to upgrade range telemetry software. But Captain Turner had recognized his name on the clearance log, and once you recognized the name Gunnery Sergeant Daniel Hayes, you didn't forget it. He was a legend. 10 years ago, during a mission in Afghanistan, Hayes had taken a shot from nearly 2 kilometers out, wind, sandstorm, zero visibility, and saved an entire recon team. The shot was studied at Quantico for years. Then he'd left the Corps to raise his daughter after his wife died in a car accident. Since then, he'd lived quietly in Carson City, doing contract work, keeping his distance from the ghosts that came with war. "Hayes," Captain Turner called across the range. "You gonna stand there judging my boys or come over and share that ancient wisdom of yours?" Daniel smiled faintly. "Just watching the show, sir. Didn't want to steal the spotlight." "Trust me, there's no spotlight here," Turner grunted. "Maybe you can remind them how a real sniper thinks." Daniel hesitated. He hadn't picked up a sniper rifle in years. But the spark in Turner's tone, half challenge, half invitation, tugged at something buried deep inside him. He walked toward the firing line, boots crunching gravel. The young Marines turned to look. Their expressions were a mix of respect and curiosity. Most had only heard rumors. Turner clapped him on the shoulder. "Gentlemen, this is Gunnery Sergeant Hayes, retired. The man who made the Ghazni shot." A murmur went through the line. One Marine, Corporal Jensen, whispered, "That's him. I thought that story was exaggerated." Daniel chuckled. "They usually are." He studied the setup. Barrett M107s laid out, scopes glinting in sunlight. The targets shimmered at 1,200 meters, just barely visible through the heat waves. Crosswinds whipped faintly left to right. Mirage distortion danced above the sand. He crouched beside one of the rifles. "You're reading the wind wrong," he said quietly. Private Morales frowned. "Sir, the meter shows 3.2 from the southwest." "Yeah, at your position," Daniel said. "But look out there. See that dust trail along the ridge, about halfway to the target? It's curling east. You've got a cross shear at 600 meters, maybe 5 knots. Your bullet's getting pulled mid-flight." Turner folded his arms. "Still got those eyes, huh?" Daniel shrugged. "Wind tells you everything if you stop looking at numbers and start seeing it." The Marines adjusted scopes, tried again. Shots echoed. Dust kicked up. Still no hits. "Closer," Daniel said, watching through binoculars. "But you're overcompensating now. Trust the rifle. You're fighting it." Corporal Jensen sighed. "Feels like the wind keeps changing every time I blink." Daniel nodded. "That's because it does. Out here, wind's alive." Turner looked at Daniel, a grin forming. "Why don't you show them what alive means?" Daniel hesitated. "I'm not on the roster, sir." "I'll make it official." Turner handed him a set of ear protectors. "For the Corps, Gunny. Give us one more shot." The Marines backed up, forming a semicircle around the veteran. Daniel lowered himself prone on the mat, rifle snug against his shoulder. His body moved with practiced ease, like a man sliding back into an old dance. He adjusted the bipod, aligned his cheek weld, and breathed once, twice, slow and measured. Through the scope, the world narrowed to a single heartbeat. The mirage steadied. The crosswind whispered its secrets. He made no adjustments on the digital wind meter. He didn't need it. He watched a tumbleweed drift, noted the glint on a tin can beside the target, saw how light bent through the heat. His finger rested lightly on the trigger. The world went still. Then, a thunderclap. The recoil rolled through his body like a living thing. A heartbeat later, the steel target rang with a clean, perfect ping. Dead center. For a second, nobody spoke. Then one Marine exhaled sharply. Holy hell. Another laughed under his breath. That's impossible. Turner's grin split wide. Still got it, Gunny. Daniel pushed himself up slowly, setting the rifle down. You don't lose it, he said. You just forget why you had it. The younger Marines crowded around, asking about breathing control, focus, trajectory. Daniel answered with calm patience, drawing diagrams in the sand. As the session continued, he coached them, not barking orders, but explaining the philosophy behind every movement. A sniper's not a trigger puller, he told them. He's a listener. The rifle, the air, the earth, they all talk. If you're angry, rushing, thinking about your score, you'll never hear them. His words carried a quiet authority, born not from pride but from pain. By sunset, the Marines were hitting targets consistently. The once scattered group now moved as one, focused, confident, deliberate. When the last target dropped, Turner dismissed them for the evening. Most left grinning, slapping each other on the back. Daniel stayed behind, helping pack up gear. Turner approached him, holding out a bottle of water. You still teach better than half my instructors. Daniel smiled faintly. Old habits. You should come back, Turner said. We could use someone like you at Quantico, training the next generation. You're wasted behind a desk. Daniel hesitated. My daughter's 16 now. She's got school, life, I'm trying to be around. She already lost her mom. I don't want her losing me to ghosts. Turner nodded slowly. Understandable. But maybe this, he gestured toward the range, maybe this isn't a ghost. Maybe it's a bridge. Daniel didn't answer. That night, he drove back through the desert. His daughter, Emily, was waiting at home, sketching at the kitchen table, earbuds in. She looked up as he entered. You're late. Got roped into helping at the range, he said, pouring himself coffee. She grinned. Let me guess. You showed them how it's done. He chuckled. 1 or 2 shots. Dad, you miss that stuff, she said. Every time you come home from the base, you look alive. Her words hit him deeper than she realized. He sat across from her. You know, when your mom died, I thought the only way to protect you was to stay out of that world. To never pick up a rifle again. But today, I remembered why I did it. Not for the Corps, not for glory, for the people who depend on you. Emily's eyes softened. Then maybe you should teach again. You don't have to fight. You can just help. Daniel smiled faintly. You sound like your mom. A week later, Daniel returned to the base to finalize software updates. But when he arrived, something felt off, a sense of tension in the air. Turner met him halfway across the tarmac. Hayes, Turner said quickly. Glad you're here. We've got a live evaluation. New drone-assisted targeting. The system's glitching. Rangefinders off by about 0.3 mils. We've got visiting brass coming from Quantico in an hour. Daniel frowned. You're running live fire. Yeah, and if the system fails in front of the colonel, the program gets axed. Daniel got to work, crouching beside the console. Lines of data flickered across the screen. Wind sensors, thermal imaging, ballistic tables. Then the range sergeant called out. Captain, we've got a hardware fault. Scopes freezing mid-calibration. Turner cursed. Fantastic. They'll be here in 15 minutes. Daniel stood up. Let me see the rifle. He checked the setup. Digital scope sync misaligned by a fraction, enough to throw every shot wide. He recalibrated manually, fingers flying with old familiarity. Turner raised an eyebrow. You sure you want to test it yourself? Daniel's answer was a small, knowing smile. Guess I'm already here. Word spread fast. By the time Daniel took position, a small crowd had gathered. Officers, technicians, even the visiting colonel. The sun was merciless, glinting off his scope. Turner called out, target at 1400 meters, crosswind 15 knots southwest. Let's see if the old legend still got it. Daniel's breathing slowed. The rifle hummed faintly from the digital calibration. He adjusted by instinct, not numbers. Through the scope, the desert blurred, then focused, the target a tiny shimmer at the horizon. He thought of his daughter's voice. "You don't have to fight. You can just help." He took the shot. The echo rolled across the sand like thunder. A heartbeat later, clang. Dead center. Applause erupted. The colonel nodded, impressed. "Looks like the system works, or maybe it's just the shooter." Turner grinned, shaking his head. "That's Hayes for you. Makes machines behave out of respect." Daniel stood, lowering the rifle. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like a ghost wandering old memories. He felt home. The colonel approached. "Gunnery Sergeant, we're reopening the Precision Marksman Instructor Program. Ever considered coming back as a civilian trainer?" Daniel glanced toward the horizon, toward the fading light and the memories buried beneath it. Then he thought of Emily. "Maybe it's time," he said. Over the next few months, Daniel began working part-time at Quantico, developing a new training module that emphasized not just accuracy, but awareness, teaching young Marines that being a sniper wasn't about death, but discipline, patience, and understanding the world through stillness. Emily would visit sometimes, watching from the stands as her father guided Marines through drills. She'd wave when he looked her way, and he'd smile, the kind that came from peace, not pride. And though the legend of the Ghazni shot still echoed in Marine circles, a new story began to circulate, about the day the U.S. Marine snipers couldn't hit the target until a single DAD veteran took the shot. Only this time, the legend wasn't about war or distance. It was about a father who rediscovered his purpose, one shot, one lesson, 1 second chance at a time.